Welcome to today's session from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ugam Karati Vachalam Pangum Langaiteke. Yat Kripatamam Vandeshim Guru. Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramanandam Madhavam. Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. So, we are on the second chapter, contents of the Gita summarized from Bhagavad Gita as it is. We have covered up to text 63 in the second chapter, and we shall be covering the remaining texts or the verses of this chapter from verse 64 to 72. Verse 64. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishya indriyescharan atma vashayer vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Text 65. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasayopajayate prasanna chetasu yashu buddhihi paryavatishthate. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Verse 67. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayurnav ivam bhasi. As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Verse 68. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani drayarthebhyastasya pragya pratisthita. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato muneh. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all the beings is night for the introspective sage. Verse 70. Apuryammanam ashtham samudram apah pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama yam pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti nakama kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Verse 71. Vihaya kaman yah sarvan pumamsh charati nihaspriha nirmamo nirhankarah sa shantim adhigacchati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Verse 72. Esha brahmi sthitih partha nayanam prapya vimuhyati sthitavasya mantakalepi brahmani nirvanam richati. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So Krishna has been telling Arjuna since verse 54 and is still telling the verses which we are going to cover today from 64 to the end of this chapter, which is verse 72, that what are the symptoms of someone who is self-realized, who understands the self, that the person who understands that he or she is not this outer covering which we think which we are. The self-realized person understands that they are the Atma or the self, not the body. And that self-realized person, what are the symptoms of the person, and how does the person walks and talks and behaves, and how does he communicates, and how does he goes about in his life. Krishna is telling Arjun about this, the symptoms, or what are the, how do you recognize such a person who is self-realized. And as we all know that Krishna, he himself is Atmaram, he's self-satisfied. And a self-realized person also becomes kind of Atmaram. Won't become a full Atmaram like Krishna, but still that person will be able to control their senses. And by controlling their senses, they will be having a lot of control over their mind, and also by controlling the mind will be controlled once the intelligence is in charge of the mind. If you don't employ the intelligence in controlling the mind, you think that you are the mind itself, then it's not going to be possible. You will be swayed away by your mind, and you will be just doing whatever your mind says. And of course, the senses, they'll be leading the mind because they are in the forefront. And if you designate your intelligence to be in control of all these activities, then more than half of the battle in the life is won, both materially and spiritually. Like Krishna was telling us earlier that we have to do, actually Krishna was telling Arjun, and through Arjun it was being told to all of us that there are two kinds of dharmas, the Swadharma and the Sanatan Dharma. The duties towards the material life and the duty towards the spiritual life. Now these both have to be done properly, and these two, when done in a nice tandem, in a nice balance, makes a human existence much more easier and livable. Because if one is just hankering after the material life and they haven't touched the spiritual side of their life properly, then it's going to be full of anxiety. The life is going to be full of anxiety, and a person is not going to be able to live a calm and compassionate and a nice life, which is how a life can be. And unless the spiritual guidance is there in the life, unless you have a bona fide guru, a spiritual master, the shastras, and then which is the scriptures, and also the association of the people who have realized themselves, who have taken on the spiritual path, and who understand that we are all in a temporary existence and this is nothing permanent. Whether there is loss or gain, fame or infamy, all the dualities of life, success or failure, it's all temporary. The happiness doesn't last permanently, the material happiness, and neither does the sorrow. This is how the world has been created. because it's all governed under the three modes of material nature. So Krishna is explaining Arjun all about how a self-realized person behaves and how he goes through his business in this life, and how he overcomes the dualities of this world, and by doing that, once the dualities are removed from your life up to some extent, you will see that all the emotions which are kind of impediments in our life all the time, like the fear, the attachments, the anger, envy, greed, they will all subside once you understand who you are, once you become self-realized. So Krishna tells Arjuna in verse 64 about this, that he has to engage a person who has freed himself from all the attachments and the aversions, the things which you don't like, which you despise of. Through the regulative principles, that person can devote their life properly to the devotional service. Tells in the purport is the causeless mercy of the Lord. And as we've been saying that since 18th, since 18th of this month to the 16th of next month, 16th of October, it's the Purushottam month, which is the very, very auspicious month. It comes once in 3 years, and it's full of causeless mercy, and Krishna is flowing his mercy. Krishna flows his mercy all the time, even when we remember him or serve him knowingly or unknowingly. But in this month, a special bank account has been opened for all of us. A direct debit is there into all of our accounts from Krishna, flowing into of the causeless mercy coming from Krishna to us. So we should try to make most of this month, light the lamps, read chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita, give some charity towards the Krishna consciousness, because the charity has to also be given carefully. You just can't give charity to anyone. If you give where you know that it will be used in the good cause. So Krishna is giving the mercy to the devotee who is going to give him the devotional, perform the devotional service for Krishna. And for that, Krishna is telling Arjuna that we have to rid of ourselves of the unnecessary attachments and aversions. They will be there, but once we understand that we are all the souls, none of us is this material body. If we were the material body, then these material bodies were never to be perished. But we know that they come into being and they perish as well after some time. And it's Atma, the soul, which is eternal and which is happy and which is full of knowledge, because it is part of the Lord himself. In verse 65, further Lord tells about the person who is in Krishna consciousness. He is not too much with the threefold miseries of the world, because they are no longer attached to anything or grieved by anything, so that this person is going to be able to tolerate the threefold miseries of this world, like we were talking about yesterday, the Adhyatmic, Adidaivic and the Adhibhautik, the miseries from the mind, body, people around us, and the wider society and the world, and thirdly, the miseries from the nature itself, the natural calamities. So the peace is only possible for a person who understands that they are this Atma and not this, they are the soul, not the body. Only they can tolerate the threefold miseries, because they know nothing is permanent, everything is just in a transit. in this world. Because the real goal for such a person is quite clear in their life. The real goal is Krishna, because they understand Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the proprietor, friend, and he is the one to whom everything belongs, and he is the one who is actually supposed to be enjoying everything, and not us lot. And how do we do that? We've been talking about this, that it can only be done when we offer everything, whatever we do in our life, whether it's cooking, whether it's earning money. We first offer that to Krishna, and then we partake of the food, then it becomes prasad. So there is no karma attached to that food, even its vegetables, because vegetables also have the consciousness. So in a way, we are also bringing their lifespan to an end earlier than it is supposed to be for the vegetables or the fruits or the other grains and everything. And we also give some of the mercy by offering the food, the vegetarian food cooked to offer the vegetarian cooked food to Krishna. Then we actually bless all the people who have actually worked in that process of bringing that food up to our kitchen, whether it's the middleman, whether it's the farmer, or the retailer, or even the driver who has driven the food to your house. Sometimes we are having the online deliveries as well in these times. So the spiritual advancement and the peace for a person is only possible when they understand, when they become self-realized, that they are not the body, they are the soul. Now in verse 69, Krishna says to Arjun that like a boat on the water gets swept with the strong wind, and similarly, even one sense, if it's roaming, it's not under your control, that can also bewilder your intelligence. So we have to make sure that we control all our senses, our ears, our eyes, our nose, our tongue, everything. Our working senses and our senses which give us knowledge, we have to control all of them. Prabhupada gives the example of Maharaj Ambrish again in this purport, that he's the one who has been the perfect example of a person who engaged all his senses in Krishna consciousness, in Lord's service. That is the only way how we can control our mind. If we keep letting our senses to be led by our mind, very rare is a chance that a mind will be directing a person to do any devotional service to Lord. But if we let intelligence work over mind, then we can have good association. We have a chance to join the Krishna consciousness and practice it in our lives, so that we may be able to get advance in our Krishna consciousness and have a chance to come closer to Krishna in this life. And whatever we will achieve in this life is going to be continued in the next life, because spiritual account is the only account which is not going to expire after our bodies expire. It will be continued into the next life. Now in verse 68, Krishna says again that to Arjun, that Krishna says to him as Mahabaho. Krishna addresses Arjun as the mighty armed. And he says that Krishna says the ones whose senses are restrained from their objects is a person of steady intelligence or of a fixed intelligence. Their wisdom is fixed. It's not wavering. here and there. So only such a person is able to control their propensity to sense gratify, and instead they will be using their senses in Krishna consciousness to worship Krishna, to pray for Krishna, and they will be able to employ all their senses into the service of Krishna. It won't be forced upon them, because once a person understands a little bit slowly with the association and with the kind of training, when a person starts to go to temple, attends their classes, the Bhagavatam classes and the Bhagavad Gita classes, and attends the festivals, slowly a person will be able to understand things, and with the association of the devotees, what will happen is it will become effortless slowly in life. And that person is not only going to help themselves, but they can help their family as well, and not just their own little family, the nuclear family. It can be then transpired into the extended family, and their other relatives and other well-wishers who are interested to know their lifestyle of Krishna consciousness. So preaching to others and telling others about Krishna makes Krishna very happy. And Prabhupada is telling in the purport that a person who will be guided by a genuine spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master, that person is called a sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. So this is the qualification for getting liberated, that you have to have a bona fide spiritual master under whose guidance you can progress in the Krishna consciousness and serve Krishna and have causeless mercy coming from the Lord himself. Verse 69 tells us about that the night time, which is sleeping for all other beings in this world, is actually a time for awakening for a self-controlled person, and the time of awakening, which is the daytime, that is actually the time for, and the time of awakening for all beings in night. So night time is thought of as time for sleeping, but the persons who are self-realized, it is a time of awakening for such souls, for those intelligent people. In the purport, Prabhupada explains that there are two classes of intelligent men. One are busy in material sense gratification, and the others who are introspective, who are trying to delve deeper into themselves and trying to understand more about themselves, who are trying to realize themselves. It's said like that because with our Atmas in our heart, there is Paramatma as well. That is the localized presence of Krishna in ourselves. And that is why when we chant, we are actually hearing ourselves, and not just we are hearing, the Paramatma in ourselves is also hearing our sincere effort. So that is the closest Paramatma, or the Lord Bhagwan is, Krishna is to us in each of our hearts. So the activities of such a person are very thoughtful. They just try to understand more and more from the Shastras, and they are inquiring from the people who are self-realized themselves. Because Prabhupada always said, why you have to work hard so much when the realized souls previously, the acharyas, the gurus, they have written everything for us. All we have to do is just to try to understand it in the association of the people who are senior to us, or even have some kind of discussion among our peer groups, and we should understand that how we can learn from the Shastras, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Bhagavatam, and there's so many other books by the 6 Goswamis in our the lineage of Brahma Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya. So Prabhupada says that it is sometimes nice to be lazy intelligent in this respect, that we try to understand from the people who have self-realized, why do we need to take the stairs when there is a lift already there for us? So we can make our lives better and better by coming into the spiritual side of, by trying to advance into the spiritual side of our life. And such a person is slowly they are not very happy with the material happiness doesn't mean much for them, because they have got the higher taste in life, which is Krishna consciousness. So in text 70, it is told by Krishna that that person who is self-realized, the never-ending desires don't disturb such a person. Like there's the analogy is given by Krishna of the rivers entering, the endless number of rivers entering the ocean, but the ocean we see is always undisturbed, is calm, and such a person is also calm. No number of desires are going to disturb such a person. So it is said that we are enjoying the happiness which is like an ocean. It's an oceanic happiness, and by invoking the Krishna in our heart, the ocean of enjoyment will be available to us. So Krishna is within our hearts, sitting with us, waiting for us, that when we will try to do our chanting, try to do our prayers, or try to sing for Krishna, the Kirtan, the Mahamantra. So Krishna is waiting. When we will be doing that, what will happen is we will be able to see the form of Krishna also. And it is said by so many senior devotees that Krishna wants to see the real genuine cry, like a cry coming from a child for his or her mother, like a child cries for his or her mother. This is how we should be crying when we say the Mahamantra, and the hairs on our body should stand up, and that ecstasy, when Krishna will see those cries coming from us, then when he sees us crying like that, then the real mercy will flow to us. At the moment, we can't even pretend, because most of us, including me, I know that we are sometimes crying that, oh Krishna, I haven't been able to do my rounds properly. I haven't been able to finish the minimum number of 16 rounds today nicely. Never mind me having any tears for you, that please Krishna, liberate me, and please Krishna, let me have control over my senses, and let me have control over my mind. Give me an intelligence which is going to direct me to devote my life to you, which is going to direct me to be able to live my life in such a way that it is conducive to your devotional service. So this beautiful analogy Krishna gives himself of the ocean. This is how we have to be exactly like the ocean filled with water in a calm state. Though there are number of desires in us, but we have to just somehow dovetail them in such a way that they are dovetailed towards Krishna. Because we should remember that this world is actually a perverted form of spiritual world. It is upside down. banyan tree, like it says in chapter 15. Those of you who are reading the chapter 15, Krishna tells that this world is the upside down form of the banyan tree. So it is worth reading that chapter in this month every day. And we have tried to put a separate playlist where you can hear the chapter 15, and there's Chaurashtakam also there, and Brahmaji's prayer from 10th canto from the Krishna book also are there for you to listen if you can find time. But if you can't find time, it's fine. Just do whatever you can do. But please offer a lamp, a ghee lamp to Krishna. Krishna is going to be happy with our sincere effort anyway. So one has to fix their mind on Krishna consciousness, then the demands of the body, the material body, and the demands of the sense gratification, they will all become under control, Prabhupada says. And the desires, they will also get controlled slowly. The tongue, like Prabhupada says that in the Prasadam prayer, that tongue is the most voracious one. It wants different kinds of tastes to eat, and it loves to gossip, and it just loves to say whatever it wants to. If we can control our tongue, then we even are in that category that we can become a spiritual master, even a Goswami. But never mind, even if we can control our tongue a little bit, we can employ it into Krishna's service for chanting and for eating the Krishna Prasad. That will be very pleasing. Be a start for most of us. Now verse 71, I'm running a bit ahead of time, so it's sorry, I've taken a lot of time today. This is a beautiful chapter. It's nearly coming to end, so I hope you don't mind. You can listen it in bits if it's become longer for you. In verse 71, Krishna further reiterates that a person who has given up all desires of sense gratification and who has given up all kind of proprietorship as well, and has got no false ego, he or she can attain the real peace, the detachment from the material desires. Now the real aim of the soul is to serve Krishna, and that is its inherent nature. And the soul desires to increase our remembrance of Krishna. This is what the soul wants. Now that is the perfection of life. So this is our actual position in life. Prabhupada says in the purport that we have to be the eternal servant of Krishna. And we shouldn't be claiming any kind of proprietorship to anything in this world. That is why we offer everything we have, so much so that even if when we bring any shopping in the house, new clothes or anything, it's nice to offer it to Krishna first and then use it for yourself. Then it becomes like you have offered the stuff to Krishna. And when you're earning, from your earning, try to do something for the temple or something for the preaching purpose, and try to assist Srila Prabhupada in his preaching mission for Krishna consciousness. Because nothing makes Krishna more happy than trying to make new devotees of Krishna in this world. So Arjuna is asked to fight in his best ability by giving up all these false proprietorship of him owning something, or him being the relative of this, or related to, or his attachments, his other things, his aversions. Prabhupada says that Krishna has been telling through up to here to Arjuna to give up all this and try to fight like a person of fixed intelligence, of fixed mind, and he has to give up the desires. And Prabhupada also tells us that Krishna is saying to us that we don't have to give up the desires artificially or just try to curb them temporarily, but by following the devotional service, it can be done effortlessly once everything will be, all the senses will be employed in Krishna's service. And in this way, in this journey of Krishna consciousness, slowly one becomes self-realized as well. So our position is not equal to Krishna, not greater of Krishna, but our position is of a servant of Krishna, because we are just a minute part of Krishna. Our Atma is the minute part of the whole Paramatma. So lastly, in verse 72, Krishna tells again that this is the way. Through the Krishna consciousness, only a person can attain such a state of life. One won't be bewildered, one won't be disturbed in their life. And if they can think like that, Krishna says, even at the time of departure from this world, even if they haven't been able to think like this in the Krishna consciousness journey through their life, but if they are able to think like that at the time of death, Krishna promises that that person can enter into the kingdom of God, which is Golok Vrindavan or the Krishna Lok. So Krishna promises us that he will take care of us. All we have to do is live a life in such a way which will be utilized in serving the Lord and understanding the situation of our soul in the grand scheme of things, that where we stand and what is the harm of just living a life full of sense gratification. Actually, Krishna has given us all the senses to be employed in his service, because we want to finish this chord of coming again and again to this world. We want to be free from this cycle of birth and death. And this is it. This is the end of the second chapter. Now Krishna has told Arjun everything about what are the prerequisites for becoming a devotee of the Lord, and what will a person who becomes a devotee of Lord is going to gain. They will get closer to Krishna, and if at the time of death they'll be able to remember Krishna, then they will be entering as a permanent servant of Krishna in the Golok Vrindavan. So this is Lord's promise. And with this, we will conclude today's session, and we will start chapter 3 tomorrow, which is Karma Yoga. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for joining today. I wish you all a very blessed and a blessed day ahead. Hare Krishna.